They say the last mile back to camp takes longer. Maybe because your body decides the zipper and the sleeping bag are already yours. I left the ridge as the sun slid behind it, the trail a pale thread through fir and rock. Our site was a small triangle by the lake, bear can, 2 chairs, my tent facing the water. I could see its silhouette from the switchbacks, a shape that meant safety. Halfway down, I noticed the first marker, not a rock stack, 2 pine cones set side by side in the center of the path. I stepped around them. 20 paces, 2 pebbles aligned like pupils. Farther, 2 wet leaves laid vein to vein. Always 2. I told myself, kids, trail art, bored through hikers. The air smelled like damp metal. When I glanced back, my boot prints softened, moss rising to erase me. The headlamp caught a small spark from a tree trunk, then lost it. I pressed closer. A reflective tack no bigger than a grain of rice pulsed when I moved. Not a blaze, not official, too low, too neat. I raised the beam and met another tack 10 feet away, and another. Their spacing had the patience of someone counting. At the meadow crossing, the pairs changed. 2 sticks, lashed with twine at ankle height, right where my stride would split. Someone had placed them after I'd passed this way. That's what it meant. I made it obvious I'd noticed. Stopped to cinch a strap that didn't need it. Killed the lamp. Let the sky hold me. Counted 30 with my teeth on edge. When I switched back on, 2 new pine needles lay exactly where my heel would have fallen. Rangers? I tried. Bright, harmless. The meadow answered with water, then nothing. I switched the lamp to red so I could see without giving my center away, and let my steps go heel then toe, a rhythm the woods couldn't memorize. Camp waited quiet. My tent door was zipped to the tab, the way I leave it, so the zipper doesn't creep. The bear can sat where I'd left it. The second chair had turned a few degrees toward the trail. A tiny blinking sticker glowed from the tent's mesh. Same size as the tack. Same patient pulse. I left a trail, someone said, almost proud. I froze. The zipper's pull cord trembled from inside my tent, lifted by breath that wasn't.
The spur trail to the Avalanche Bunker felt wrong in clean weather, like a place that only makes sense when the sky is angry. Stone half buried in the slope, steel door open to a hinge squeal that flattened quick in the cold. I reached it at blue hour, wind running one way along the ridge, as if the whole mountain had taken a breath and decided not to let it go. Someone had been there, ash pattern tight and recent in the burn pan. A boot had scuffed a crescent in the concrete threshold, the kind you make turning to listen. I called out, hiker coming in, so I wouldn't be a stranger. The bunker gave me back my voice late, the delay of a tunnel that can't decide how long it is. Inside, it was dry and colder. I set my pack near the lee wall and lit the stove small. The flame made polite ticks as it settled. The wind leaned on the door and eased, like a chest under a blanket. I keep a wind-up weather radio for ridge forecasts. Cranked it from habit. The NOAA band was dead, just a gentle floor of snow noise. Then a flicker in the hiss. My call. The words I'd said at the door, returning in a thinner throat, a half beat after memory. I said hello again, soft. The radio let my voice pass through it, like it was a throat of its own. From outside, somewhere upslope, came the neat tap of trekking poles on rock. No breath, no grit shift, just the measured punctuation of tips on stone. Tap, tap, tap. They reached the lip of the bunker and stopped. The wind pushed. A steel locker inside the wall clicked once, as if someone was testing the latch with 2 fingers. "You're welcome to share the shelter," I said. The radio carried my sentence, trimmed and steadier than I'd managed. The poles outside didn't move. A little bell sounded and went still, not a jangle. One clean, deliberate note put down like a period. I packed without zippers, slid my boots into my hands, and walked the first switchback in socks. When I laced up, the ridge held a quiet with angles. Halfway down, I looked back. The bunker mouth was a square of dusk. No light, no movement. I turned the radio off and dropped it in the side pocket. At the trailhead, a laminated notice stapled to the board fluttered. Seasonal radio check suspended. Underneath, in pencil, someone had pressed hard enough to dent the plastic. Do not repeat. I tightened the strap. Somewhere inside the pack, the dead radio breathed, and in my own voice, half a beat late, it whispered my name.
We made camp late beneath larch and stone. 2 small tents slung low like held breaths. Creak to the right, making that steady hush people mistake for safety. She took the stove. I took the hangline and the trail radio, its plastic scarred by other trips that ended mostly fine. The forecast said clear. The wind ran east, thin as thread. At 1:09, 3 neat taps touched my trekking pole. Knuckle, not claw. I waited, counting the last tap a little longer than the others, like it wanted me to. Then the same 3 on her tent. "Cut it out," she whispered through nylon. I hadn't moved. A zipper started somewhere not ours. Not a tear. Careful, tooth by tooth, as if someone practiced the sound before choosing it. We had crossed no one all day. Still, there are courtesies. I pitched my voice for stray dogs and lost kids. Sight taken, her headlamp gave 1 slow blink and died again. Don't blind what you don't understand. Footsteps threaded the needles between us. Not heavy, not animal. A patient measurement, a person who counted walking as a language. The taps made their round again, tent to tent, like attendants. We staged the old theater of "we are definitely not alone." Spoke too brightly about oatmeal and an early ranger sweep, about the canister they could smell but not open. I let the pot thrum once against the spoon. The steps paused at the bare line and drew a wide, listening circle. The radio coughed weather, then shifted into my tent with a breath it had never had. Higher, tie it higher, her exact tone, her little upward turn at the end, though she hadn't said it now. Every hair along my forearms rose and waited there. We agreed without saying it. On 3, unzip, lamps low, stand apart like we were making a doorway the night had to choose. We went. Nothing there, only a new figure on the ground. Twigs bridged by a pine cone, a shoelace from my boot stolen and threaded quiet through my eyelids. Stretched across just high enough to catch a shin and make you say sorry to the dark. Right, I told the trees, like closing a call. We packed with the practiced calm of people paying a debt. At the creek, The stones had been nudged half inches off through, so the last step would offer your ankle to the current. We waited. At dawn, the trailhead caretaker heard us without blinking. Some folks play guide out here, she said. They don't like being alone either. She nodded at my missing lace. Close everything you open. In the rear view, our clearing looked undisturbed, a held breath still unspent. The radio woke once more with her voice from hours ago. Same syllables, same upward turn. A lesson pressed flat by static, then went quiet forever. And I knew it hadn't been guiding us through the night. It had been learning how to sound like me.
Like, share,